proposals. Looking at the surrounding area, the zones in this area are primarily single unit dwelling R1 to the east, so the Riverside Drive subdivision, and institutional to the west. The subdivision to the east, it's located immediately east of the property, contains mostly single unit dwellings and a municipal park. There are 11 residences that staff counted that immediately abut the subject property. This neighborhood is well established. To the west of the property, there are some residential uses, but it's noted as well that there is the Riverside Cemetery, which occupies a large institutional zoned property. Just to note that Water Street, it's an important collector road on the south side of Miramichi, where the subject property is located. The property is approximately 300 meters west of the Centennial Bridge and Route 8, and the property is also proximate and has views of the river to the north just across Water Street. There is also a CN rail line that runs to the north of Water Street, and generally this area is about 600 to 900 meters west of downtown Chatham, however you choose to measure that. The proposed development is certainly intense, and it could present some opportunities for objection to potential traffic, noise, overall activity. Staff feel that this could surpass the existing and previous conditions and patterns of activity in the area. It's possible that residents in the adjacent neighborhood could object to the proposed development because of this increase in traffic and noise. As part of the public hearing tonight, there could be specific concerns identified that staff did not anticipate. Looking at the department comments, so the city's Director of Engineering provided the following. Access, a traffic impact statement is required. Servicing, the developer is to provide a detailed plan to service the 2 new buildings. As it is proposed to divide the property into 2 lots, easements will be required for services crossing an adjacent lot if applicable. And drainage, a plan and design brief is required for a net zero increase in post-construction development. The city's Director of Economic Development and Tourism provided their support, stating in part, quote, that a diversity of housing being proposed for this property is suitable, and the daycare will provide convenient access to the residents residing at this property. So the views of the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee, this was passed as Resolution 2023-8-1, the regular meeting from November 21st. Pursuant to Section 110.1 of the Community Planning Act, it is the view of the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee of the GMRSC that the City of Miramichi amend 1. Schedule A, future land use map of the City of Miramichi Municipal Plan, Bylaw 109, to change the designation from institutional to residential. And 2. Schedule A, zoning map of the City of Miramichi zoning bylaw, Bylaw 110, to change the zoning from institutional to medium density BR4. This is for the subject property described as PID 40429433, located at 180 Water Street in the City of Miramichi, to enable the conversion of the existing senior citizens home into 3 apartment buildings totaling 23 units plus a daycare center, construction of a new 20-unit apartment building at the rear of the property, and the construction of 7 new townhouse units at the front of the property. And that such approval be subject to the following condition pursuant to Section 59 of the New Brunswick Community Planning Act. 1, that development of the subject property be limited to a combination of a daycare center and residential buildings totaling no more than 50 dwelling units. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Adet. Moving on to our agenda here of this public hearing, we're on to number 5. 2 letters of objection were received. I'll now ask City Clerk to read the letters as they will now form part of the record and considerations of Council.
The first letter is from Catherine Jane Stark Daigle. Application for amendment to the Municipal Bylaw 109 and Zoning Bylaw 110 by Belterre Real Estate Partner, PID 404-20433. My name is Catherine Stark Daigle, and as a land/homeowner within 100 meters of the property location to be rezoned, the previous Senior Citizen Center, I strongly object to the rezoning of this property from institutional to institutional with a medium density BR4. I have no objections to this bylaw being rezoned to residential, but with a significant decrease in the housing numbers that Belterre Real Estate Partners wants to put on wants to put on it, whether it is this initial amendment or future amendments. I also strongly object to the municipal plan bylaw. It is unacceptable, and I will elaborate further in my questions/objections below. I am presently out of the country, or I would have been there in person at the meeting on January 23rd, 2024. I also want to state that there were only 37 letters sent out. I was the only resident to the west and on Water Street to receive one, which means that Riverside Cemetery Company, which is between my home and the former senior center, did not receive a letter as well. All my neighbors to the west who have a vested interest in both of these amendments. The Riverside Cemetery would also have a very important interest in these, as it will directly impact them as well. There are many, many families with loved ones there who would not agree with these amendments and the subsequent proposal. In the planning rationale memo, there is misrepresentation of the residents to the west. The report states, and I quote, "Within 0.5 kilometers to the west of the property is vacant land, a municipal public works yard, an oil tank farm, and a cement distribution terminal. As we are all invisible and do not count?" This is a very misleading statement and misinformation. There are numerous family homes that these amendments will impact to the west, as well as a lot more families in Riverside Park to the east and surrounding neighborhoods. I realize that this is probably the first step in the process, but there are many issues which need to be addressed and clarified. As the proposal itself now stands, it is unacceptable, and the number of units need to be reduced drastically. Objections and questions. Number 1. The address given is listed as 180 Water Street, when actually it is 1400 Water Street, and has been since the city incorporated in 1995, and addresses on Water Street and some other streets in the city were changed. 180 Water Street is in actuality at the west end of Chatham Head/Nelson area of the city. This address should have been changed by the province upon incorporation of the city and picked up by the government and city upon the release of the first tax bill. This is misinformation and misleading to the general public who do not realize its true location on these proposed amendments. Since the applicant, Belterre Real Estate Partner, doesn't presently own the property and it's presently owned by the Transportation and Infrastructure, Government of New Brunswick, where is the legal documentation from the Government of New Brunswick giving Belterre Real Estate Partner the right to apply for these two amendments? This should have been supplied with the amendments. Also, the property address should legally be changed from 180 Water Street to 1400 Water Street before the proposed amendments proceed any further. I strongly object to the incorrect information and address that I and the general public have been given. Number 2. The property consisting of 2.31 hectares is to be subdivided into 2 lots with, as per the proposal, a total of 50 units to be rented out plus a daycare center. Belterre Real Estate Partner is already proposing a second amendment to increase that number to 65 units plus the daycare center, that is another 15 units. The front lot will have 7 3-story townhouses plus garages facing Water Street. Plans are for parts of the senior center to be torn down and 23 apartment units and a daycare center to be established. This is a lot of units on a 1.4 hectare area. The south or back lot will then have an area of 1.071 hectares, which will be comprised of a new 20-unit apartment building. With the new proposal, there will be 65 units. Where are the other 15 units going to go? This is way too many units on 2.31 hectares of property. This means we are looking at an approximate increase of up to 300 plus people living on this small area. I strongly object to this for many of the following reasons. Number 3, rentals. With an increase of this many people, who are these units being rented to and what kind of rentals are they going to be? Are people being brought in from elsewhere to fill these units? Are they controlled housing or low rental, or are they for our senior citizens, students, transient workers, etc.? With all the new construction on the Miramichi, I can't see a need for this many units on 2 hectares of property. Exactly who is going to rent these units if approved? Are pets to be allowed? If so, this ups the problem drastically as well. Clarification needs to be made on all aspects of exactly what is to transpire on this property. Since Belterre is a non-profit organization, who is paying for these units and property? Where is the money coming from, and where is it going to? These questions need to be answered before proceeding any further. Number 4. For every family in today's society, we have a minimum of 2 cars. With 50 units, this would be 100 extra vehicles, or 65, this would be 130 vehicles at least, plus we have the daycare center and the vehicles coming and going there. Number 5. The proposed daycare center. I could get very little information on this from anyone in the know. If a proposed daycare center is listed in the information, then I am sure there are more detailed plans already in place by Belterre as to how many kids, attendance, hours, etc. This information is vital and should have been shared with those people of the general public who it affects and the general public. Is this daycare center going to be solely for the use of the units designated in the amendments, or is it going to be open to the general public? Number 6. Effects on the surrounding area. If units are to be rented to people being brought into the area, plus the effects of the proposed daycare center, many services plus traffic will be greatly affected and taxes will be increased. These include utilities, i.e. power, water, sewage. Will these cause them to be raised and more shortages to be caused? Traffic flow will be increased drastically in the area with that many units and a daycare center. Plus, the railway crossing wait times will go up drastically and roads will be packed and traffic slowed. Health services, which are already overworked and understaffed, will definitely feel the impact, plus people can't get doctors in the area now. The noise level will increase drastically depending on who the units are rented to. Police, who are also overworked and understaffed, will also be affected. What will the impact residents and on Riverside Cemetery already suffers from people walking their animals and not picking up after them? Plus, will vandalism increase not only in the cemetery but in the surrounding area? I, for one, as I am sure everyone in the vicinity of the proposed units, want to be able to sit on my front porch and not have to smell marijuana, not have to listen to loud music bouncing off my walls all night long, loud arguments, or drunken brawls. With this many units enclosed in such a small area, this is sure to happen unless they are seniors. These are only some of the questions and objections that I have stated to these amendments and the development of this 2.31 hectares of land. If the amendments were for a much smaller residential development, then I would not have any objections to it. But as it stands right now, I strongly object to these amendments and Belterre Real Estate's proposal. It is unacceptable in its present form. I await a written response to my questions/objections with full details from the City of Miramichi. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sincerely yours, Catherine Stark Daigle. I am. The next letter, subject proposed bylaw changes to PID 404-29433, located at 180 Water Street in the City of Miramichi. I am writing to you regarding the proposed bylaw changes to PID 404-29433, located at 180 Water Street in the City of Miramichi. I am a long-term resident of Miramichi, residing at 1380 Water Street. My family home is just west of the proposed project. My property is adjacent to the west side of the Riverside Cemetery property and extends from Water Street south to Gordon Road. I wish to register the following objections and concerns regarding the proposed changes to the existing bylaws. Number 1. integrity, safety, and security of the surrounding and adjacent properties, in particular the Riverside Cemetery and the numerous residential homes. What assurances do we have that the project of this scope will not have negative impacts on current residents, given the fact that there will be a significant influx of new residents? Will the existing privacy and serenity of the neighborhood remain intact? Specifically, the Riverside Cemetery property. As a neighbor to this beautiful property, and I can attest to the large number of people and families that come to the cemetery in search of the peace and tranquility that the property provides while visiting with loved ones. I fear that a project of this size and the nature will destroy the solemnity that has been in existence for over 100 years by turning it into a playground. A first step to ensure that this does not happen would be to insist on a properly installed and maintained privacy fence that extends from Water Street to the south end of the property line. Currently, there is a wooden fence in place that covers less than a third of the property line, and it's in need of replacement. The existing fence belongs to the former Miramichi Seniors Home. Number 2, pollution of various types: noise, sound, light, traffic, air pollution, etc. The proposed project is a significant endeavor that will in no doubt add to current issues. Number 3, I also have concerns about the process by which residents and property holders were notified. It is my understanding that the president and board of the directors of Riverside Cemetery were not contacted or consulted. I find this to be a significant oversight considering the proximity of the cemetery property to the proposed project. As a plot holder, regular daily visitor, and former director of the Riverside Cemetery, I find this unacceptable. Number 4, in addition, the property description in the bylaw notice 180 Water Street is not associated with the actual property, which is located at 1400 Water Street and is correctly described in the project documents as such. The address in the public notice would lead their readers to believe that the location under consideration is situated west of Miramichi Regional Hospital on Water Street. It would have been more useful and transparent to have referred to the property using the property street address and its former Miramichi Senior Citizens Home, a name it was well known as for the past 50-plus years, and a name and location many residents would have readily recognized. I would request that a corrected notice be circulated and another meeting scheduled in the future. A visit to the project site and cemetery would prove useful in allowing the City Council to make an informed decision. Respectfully, Rick Trevors, 1380 Water Street. I also have a letter that I'm going to read. It is not a letter of objection. It is a letter from Belterre Real Estate Partners Limited. Belterre Real Estate Partners Limited has reviewed PRAC Resolution 203-8-1. The purpose of this letter is to address Condition 1 of the resolution, which limits the number of dwelling units permitted in the residential building, existing and proposed, to 50. Based on the comments expressed below, Belterre Real Estate Partners is asking Miramichi City Council to increase the dwelling units permitted in the residential building, existing and proposed, from 50 to 65. Number 1, amended to the general application form submitted to the Greater Miramichi Regional Service Commission was a site plan that showed a total of 50 dwelling units in the proposed 5 residential buildings. Number 2, the purpose of the site plan was to illustrate how the existing and proposed buildings on the property would generally be located, as well as the location of driveways and parking. Number 3, the number of dwelling units assigned to each residential building was to identify how the proposed dwelling units could be allocated and were therefore not intended to be used to limit the number of total dwellings units that can be accommodated. Number 4, the 3 proposed buildings that were part of the former senior citizens' home illustrates how what was proposed on the site plan could be changed. For the application, total dwelling units identified were all 2-bedroom. That will change once the interior demolition of the building is complete and decisions are made regarding existing and proposed exterior wall openings. Number 5, attached to this email is Belterre Community Partners application to the Government of New Brunswick for affordable rental housing funding for 65 dwelling units. Sincerely, Blair Martin, Managing Partner.
Okay, thank you to the clerk for reading those letters, noting that the third one did need to be added to our public record here this evening. Our next agenda item is input from those wishing to speak for or against the letters, and I'll start, as always, with the applicant. Belterre Real Estate Partner Limited is the applicant present here this evening. And do you wish to address council regarding the letter of objections? Thank you. We're going to ask you to just turn the microphone on and please identify yourself.
My name is Blair Martin. I share a couple of titles. I am the managing partner of Belterre Real Estate Partners Limited, and I am the president of Belterre Community Partners Incorporated. And I think I will speak to the letter that we submitted regarding changing the resolution. I also have some introductory remarks. I don't know if you want to hear me speak to the letter first, or the introductory remarks, which kind of explain how we got where we are now, what Belterre Real Estate Partners is, what Belterre Community Partners is. I've had an opportunity to already speak to some residents outside while you were in Committee of the Whole. So I'm in your hands if you want to get a summary of how we got to where we are right now, or do you just want me to speak to the letter?
To the letters, if you could.
To the letter?
Please.
Okay. Well, the letter is self-explanatory, and the whole process of identifying how many units can be accommodated on that property is a fluid exercise right now, given we're dealing with an existing building. So we believe that the mix will be a combination of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units based on what the structure is like after we complete the interior demolition, after we figure out what the government of New Brunswick would like to see in terms of the mix of units, given some of the units will be subject to rent supplements through an agreement with the government of New Brunswick to have people from the NB housing wait list populate some of those units. So again, it's a fluid process. You know that we already have a building occupied on Water Street and at McIntosh Street. And when you're dealing with a new building, it's pretty easy to define how many units you're going to have. Those conversations in advance of doing the final design of the building have taken place with the government of New Brunswick. So that's why we're asking for that increase. We don't know if we will build 65 units on the property, but we want to have that opportunity in case we find we're demising the existing building a little bit differently than we thought we would originally.
Okay, thank you. Do we go on to objections before we get to council? Very good. Councilor Arsenault.
Mr. Martin, just a quick question, sorry. Just for my own clarity, I guess. So if I understand correctly, what you just explained is that you're not intending to build an additional building with 15 more units, but changing perhaps the layout or the cut up of the existing buildings that are there.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Councilor Arsenault. Manager Noel. Just Councilor King.
Thank you, Deputy. Mr. Martin, thanks for the opportunity. Just a question on the building. Are you going to have a buffer zone on the left side of that going up towards the Riverside Drive houses?
Well, there already is the separation between the existing buildings and the properties on Park Drive.
It's just a screen fence.
Well, I think that we're willing to talk about that. It wasn't required for this application, but when we're working through the building permit process, and if the Service Commission wants us to provide some type of a buffer, we're fully open to those suggestions and recommendations.
Just one more, if I may, Deputy Mayor. On the old seniors home itself, are you tearing that right down or just
Pardon?
leaving a couple of wings, using a couple of wings of it?
Well, we're tearing down what would be where the kitchen was, for sure, and all that mechanical equipment that were part of that section just after you got through the lobby. And then there's a couple of other little sections that we're tearing down, just because it'd just be space we have to heat for no reason. Like Mr. Odette read in his response to council, I forgot what my answer was going to be. But yeah, I'm lost for words. Maybe you can pose the question. I'll find the answer I'm looking for.
Tearing down part of the seniors home.
Yeah, we're tearing down the parts that we don't think we're going to be using. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Like Mr. Odette said, all of the units in the existing building will be from the outside. So the central corridors that are there now will be removed. So there are parts of the building that were corridors that we don't need anymore. And those are the areas that will be demolished.
Okay. Just 1 minute, Your Worship. I don't know if I can ask this question, but just on the personal people that read objections, can you comment on them? Or do you want to?
There were a lot of comments there.
Yes.
I don't know which ones you want me to focus on, but I'm happy to respond. I wasn't writing them down.
Okay. Maybe, well, we have another meeting anyway, Deputy, don't we, Mike? After this?
We'll get there.
The one item I could respond to is traffic. Yeah, the one that I could truly respond to is traffic. So, as part of the exercise we went through to be the proponent selected by the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure to purchase this property from the government of New Brunswick was about traffic. And we had a traffic engineer do a really quick analysis about what the existing building operating as seniors complex with staff and visitors would generate in terms of traffic and what the proposed uses would generate in terms of traffic. And the difference, and we just focused on the peak hour demand, morning and evening, was 2 cars every 15 minutes. And our response was, if anybody can tell us the difference between 2 cars over a 15-minute period coming and going from a site is different than from what was happening beforehand, I'd be surprised. But the difference is almost insignificant in terms of traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor DePlacy. Just 1 second, Councillor DePlacy. Mr. Deck, could you humor me here and just minimize your presentation so we can see Mayor Lorden? I do suspect he'll want to be in here. Councillor DePlacy, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no problems at all. Just a quick question, and just try to correct the record perhaps. In one of the objection letters, it indicated that their belief was that you didn't in fact own the property and that the city still owned the property. Can you speak to the kind of ownership question that was raised?
It's true. So that was going to be my introductory remarks. So Belterre Community Partners responded to an expression of interest to purchase that property from the government of New Brunswick, and we were the successful proponent. We have entered in an agreement of purchase and sale with the government of New Brunswick, but they want us to have financing in place to start construction before they'll transfer title. And I didn't have an objection to that as president of the organization. So we are in the process. We made applications to Canada Mortgage and Housing for debt financing. We made applications to the government of New Brunswick through the Affordable Rental Housing Program, and we're negotiating right now with a financial institution, I won't name it, to give us a bridge loan, which will allow us to start the demolition process. Once we have a letter of intent regarding that funding, then transfer will happen and work will begin on the property.
Do you?
Through your chair to perhaps the manager, just speaking on that, like that feels like this is the first time that we've seen a request come in to rezone on behalf of, even understanding your situation is
Yeah,
structured.
It is, our client is the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure.
Right.
That's the
the
relationship right
structure.
now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, I guess like that ultimately is the question, because we've seen architect companies and engineer companies represent clients, and that's
It is
essentially what we're
permissible.
rushing.
I'm assuming it's a bridge they cross with the planning department. The last time I can recall it happening is when the government of Canada asked to rezone land owned by the exhibition in the former town of Chatham, where clearly the owner was consenting to somebody who might buy their property. This is the closest thing to that since that.
And how different would it be, say, of like a Breakwater or someone like that representing a client?
They are the agent of the client
Understood.
and of the owner, and Mr. Martin is not the agent, he is.
No, Belterre Real Estate
Belterre.
Partners Limited is the agent. Belterre Community Partners will be the owner.
But the owner presently is the province of New Brunswick.
And
You are
they're,
not their agent for this. You are entitled to apply as a potential purchaser, but I'm not sure they would have appointed you as their agent.
well, they did appoint us as their agent. They
To
had
come
to,
and-
because
and
we
to come and
we wouldn't
apply on
have,
their
we wouldn't have
behalf?
I'd just like to hear
proceeded.
the
We wouldn't
answer,
have proceeded
just
if we
to
didn't. The reason Belterre Real Estate Partners is doing it, because that organization has errors and omissions insurance, which Belterre Community Partners doesn't have. Belterre Community Partners is a nonprofit. It can't go representing other property owners. So we are agents of the government of New Brunswick for this application.
Okay, Mayor Lorden, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Quinn. I've got two questions. The first is for Mr. Martin. And I think it's something Mr. Odette mentioned in his presentation, and I just want to clarify. I think maybe it was just misspeaking in terms of the words he used, but the daycare facilities would be, I guess my question, Mr. Martin, is would the daycare facilities be accessible to the broader community, not just people who live in the building?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. The way it was worded by Mr. Odette made it seem like only people living in the building would have access, but our needs in terms of daycare would ideally be helped, not just for those that are in the building. And my second question would be, I guess it's maybe more for Mr. Odette or the manager, but it just in understanding that, as Mr. Martin has explained, that the application is for up to 65 units, and PRAC has, applied a potential condition of a maximum of 50, although, again, R4 would allow for up to 65. I believe PRAC may not have been aware about the potential for those additional 15. So procedurally, is there a way for them to revisit and potentially remove their own condition? Or would the only way for that condition to be removed be by council?
Mr. Odette, microphone, please. Thank you.
So the discussions that we've had, really there was two options. If council felt that the new proposal from the applicant was significant enough change, the Community Planning Act does require the application to be heard again by the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee. Otherwise, if council is comfortable proceeding as is, or proceeding through this process now, they can consider amending or removing or adding additional terms and conditions on the proposed development.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Lorden. Any other questions? Manager Noel.
Mr. Odette, I have a question for you on the PRAC views, and it's only for clarification for myself to have properly advised council, and it was in relation to page 32 of your presentation. If you could put that page up there, I want to show you what. Okay, and I wish to confirm with you that everything in the top paragraph is not considered a condition, only what is beside number 1. So the applicant does not have to necessarily build 3 apartment buildings totaling 23 units. I'm trying to figure out what the condition is. And right now, I would believe it's only beside what's number 1, and what's above that is a preamble, and it's not a condition. Would that be correct?
You're correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Manager Noel and Mr. Audette. Now, the floor is open to, sorry, Councillor Placey.
I don't know if it's the right time, but I did want to ask, not to you, Mr. Martin, but through your chair to the clerk's office, I guess. There was a couple concerns raised around process in the letters of objection. And I know we've talked about this before, of circumference and where we're kind of getting our mailing out to. So I'd like a bit of a recap on what that is, and if we did it successfully, or if there was anything that popped up that the mail carrier tripped and fell or something that we're just not aware of.
So the Regional Service Commission does provide us with a list of property owners within 100 meters of the subject property. There, as indicated in one of the letters, there were 37 letters sent out to these property owners. One of the letters actually was to the Riverside Cemetery. I'm unaware of the reason why it wasn't delivered, but they were on our list.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. I'll open the floor to individuals wishing to speak for or against the written objection received by the clerk. I do know we have some folks in our gallery. This opportunity is as a direct result of the letters of objection that were entered into the record previous by Ms. Stark-Daigle and Mr. Travers. And if anyone does wish to speak, now is your chance. Please hop up to the podium and make sure the microphone is on. Maybe I'll ask Mr. McGraw or Ms. Harding to do so. And please identify yourself.
I think it's
Could you please identify yourself, please?
I'm Joanne Isaiah Malhotra.
Hi, Joanne.
I'm from 11 Park Drive. I think it's a great idea, but there's one problem stated in the letter about the apartment building. 20 units is too much for that area, I think, because that brings more people, more kids, more traffic, like they said, and I think they should think a little harder on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other folks who wish to address this evening? And seeing none, we'll move on to next. Oh, sorry, Councillor Harris.
Just, I no one brought it up, but I think before we move on, we should find out what the right address is. That's been brought up both. Is
Well,
it 180 or 1400 Water Street for when we get back here again? That's not, because it did come from the Planning Commission, it was 180. But I see in 2 letters it's 1400, and I have no idea what it is, though.
It's 1400.
Maybe our real estate agent could tell us, or somebody could tell us, I'm not sure. It is 1400? So it should reflect that, I think, moving forward, right? It's 1400 Water Street.
Yeah, we noted that today when the letters came in, and we checked, and the province puts out information on what they call the planet system. And on one part of that planet system, it indicated it was 180. And in another part of the planet system that we checked down the road, it was 1400. And I see the Planning Commission was of the same. So we both referenced planet. It is 1400. Just to clarify, the information that went out to the homeowners also had maps attached showing what property was being developed, and we did receive inquiries from people on Park Drive. So I think most people were aware of it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris. Any further questions? Last call. And seeing none, we'll move on to next steps in the process. Comments made tonight will be considered by council moving forward. Only those in attendance at this hearing shall be entitled to vote in third reading and enactment. The council will determine at a special council meeting on February 6th, 2024. I'll repeat, February 6th, 2024, whether to give second reading by title, reading in entirety, third reading by title, and enactment of bylaw number 109-17 and bylaw number 110-26. So again, that meeting is February 6th, 2024 this year. And at 7:21, this meeting is adjourned.